How we doing, guys?
Good.
Hey, Coach.
Coach?
You just talked about having Lawrence back and how he looked and the extensive work he did today.
Yeah, it's good to have him back. He got in last night, so he was here for a full day so far this morning, and we had a lighter practice today, more of a walkthrough type tempo, but we did get a chance to work with him after that walkthrough practice. He had his cleats on, his helmet, went through some individual drills, and he looked good.
Did you scale back the practice because guys were getting hurt a little bit yesterday and you just didn't want to push it when they've been off for so long?
Yeah, we just wanted to make sure the numbers were right. We could have functioned in practice today and kind of pushed them through it, but we felt like it was better just to make sure we got the quality work in. We'll do the same kind of practice this afternoon, and hopefully we'll get them going again for tomorrow morning.
Is that something they have to monitor just because it's been so long since training for the combine and your pro day is different than getting ready to play football?
Absolutely, and these guys come from different places. Most of the guys who are draftable players and guys we signed as free agents handled the work fairly well. Some of the other guys not as well. And the biggest thing is you don't want to strain the numbers if guys aren't able to go or they're less than 100%. So I thought that was the right thing to do to change it up. We'll still get the on-the-field work in team-type sessions, so we think that's productive for us.
But it's a big change for many of them. Even I know Will Smith said he felt like he was in high school track practice. You know, all the running and the tempo and huddling up, he had to huddle up, and last time he remember in the huddle up, he had to get things so fast.
Yeah, certainly some of these guys come from different offensive and defensive systems in college, and the huddle is part of what we do. We also get in no huddle situations, as you know, but for the most part, we will huddle prior to plays, and that could be a transition for some of these guys who haven't done a whole lot of that. But it's good to see those guys out there and getting some work and getting themselves acclimated to things. Again, mentally as much as anything else, we try to put some pressure on them, give them some installation, see if they can handle it, and then we practice at a certain tempo and pace. And we got to get those guys used to that as well. When the veterans come out here, the pace is much, much faster than it's been the last couple of days, so they got to get themselves used to it.
Was today better than yesterday for some of them in terms of grasping what you want them to do?
Yeah, I think that's always one of the tests that you have. You give them some installation for day one, and then you give them installation for day two. And oftentimes they kind of feel like they take a deep breath and they got it down, and then the next day's installation comes. And then in training camp, the next day will come, and the next day will come. And that's how we ask these guys to function. And it's an important part of their development to be able to handle that. Okay, I got it down. Okay, I process that, that's with me. Now what do I do with the next day's information? Because that's the nature of this league. And the guys who are able to handle it mentally and still function on the practice field are the guys who have the best chance of making this team.
Jason, when you, in DeMarcus Lawrence's development, do you feel like you will naturally kind of compare him to Ware a little bit because you've seen him over there so many years? As you watch him develop, will those thoughts come up for you?
I think we do a pretty good job as coaches not making those direct comparisons. You hear me say that all the time. You guys ask me a lot about comparisons. I think it's really important as a coach and as a coaching staff to make sure you evaluate the player in and of himself. And there's some demands and requirements for each position. It's more about, hey, we're asking this right end to do this. How is he doing in those categories? Does he do this better? Should we play him in a different spot? Rather than this guy used to play this spot, how does he compare to that guy? We have some demands at each of the positions, and you have to evaluate them and see how they stack up to what those demands are, and make the best judgments accordingly.
Does it amaze you that Marinelli's able to juggle so many different linemen? It seems as if you're getting a new guy in every week, it seems, fan.
Well, we certainly made an emphasis in the draft to get some defensive linemen, and we drafted 3 of them. We're excited about that. We have a couple free agents we want to look at. And that's part of this time of year for everybody. 33 new players between the draft picks and the free agents that we signed after the draft. So it's an exciting time for everybody. A lot of guys have new guys in their positions. And as a coach, you can't wait to get here in the morning to see what these guys are doing, get a chance to work with them on the field.
What do you like about LaDainian Washington?
Oh, I think there are a lot of things. Productive player in college. Seems like a guy who just goes about his business. One of the fun things for us as coaches is you literally see development over the course of a practice. And then from the morning practice to the afternoon, and then from day to day. And we had the good fortune of working with some of these guys throughout this week. And he's somebody over the course of 4 or 5 days who's really improved a lot. It seems like it has a lot to do with his approach. He's serious-minded. He listens to coaching. We talked a little bit about his family history and where he's come from that way, and we have some of those things that come up in your life that you have to deal with serious, real-life things, typically that gives you a pretty good perspective on how to handle things in the world of football. And he certainly has those capabilities and those characteristics as a person.
You have a guy like Washington with that type of background. Do you find it difficult to leave that out when you're evaluating him as a football player, just considering his story and things like that?
Well, I think it's important to evaluate the football player. But I think anytime you're evaluating the football player, it's hard not to evaluate the guy. And we spend a lot of time trying to figure out who these guys are prior to the draft, or prior to signing them as free agents. And I think that's a big part of what they have a chance to become. And so certainly in his case, all positives, really dealt with a lot of very difficult things in his life, has come out the other end really strongly, and I think you see some of that resiliency in his play and the kind of person he is.
You have guys that are, say, a blocking tight end or a power back that can't really show you what they can do out here because you're not hitting. What are some of the things you're looking for other than that? Because you know you're not getting everything for the type of player.
Yeah, I think that applies to a lot of positions. Some guys this guy might be more physical linebacker, more physical safety. And, so what you're trying to do is you're trying to evaluate them in the drills or the team situations that we're asking them to be a part of and see how they hold up in those situations. And then all the while you understand that he might be a different player when we put the pads on. So based on the history that we have with the guy, how we've evaluated him as a college player, I think you try to factor that stuff in when you're evaluating him in a practice situation. Hey, this guy doesn't have the great movement, but remember how he strikes people and remember how he takes on blocks, remember how physical he was on special teams. I think you always kind of have those conversations with yourself.
With the uncertainty on the timing of Anthony Spencer's return, how do you plan for that? Do you just sort of proceed like, he's not going to be there, or do you, and then when he does come back, hey, it's a bonus he's here, or do you plan for him to be there?
Well, I think with all players, what we focus on is getting them healthy. That's the most important thing, and that's been the essence of every conversation I've had with Spence, encouraging him to keep doing what he's doing, keep working hard, make progress every day, build on the good days, and just keep going. And then we'll evaluate him as we go. Having said that, I don't know that you can count on any injured player to come back. You got to make sure that you have safety nets and reinforcements, and we certainly did that across our defensive line. We lived with a lot of different injuries on our defensive line last year, and we as an organization made a very conscious decision to make sure we're not going to get ourselves in that position again. And you try to really do that throughout your football team at all positions.
You guys talk to people across the league that have dealt with this kind of injury and chances of coming back in this kind of injury before you kind of committed to signing Spencer?
Oh, absolutely. Our training staff and our doctors have great history with a lot of different kinds of injuries, and that's always a big part of the evaluation we make. Another part of the evaluation is what kind of person is the guy who has the injury. Is he willing to do what he needs to do to get himself back? And so you factor all those things into it. There have been players who have come back from an injury like Spence's, and when you have Spence's character, his makeup, the kind of person he is, you certainly want to give him every chance.
What did you think of the Ryan Williams workout, and did any decision get made on that?
No decision's been made yet. It was an impressive workout. He did a nice job. We thought a lot of him coming out of school a couple, 3 years ago, and he's had some injuries in Arizona and hasn't played as much as I think they probably thought he would. But he's certainly an impressive guy. What we saw on tape when he was playing was some pretty good stuff, even though the numbers didn't back it up. And then you saw that kind of movement today in the workout.
I realize everybody's got a long way to go, but does Street have a savvy to his route running for a rookie and some of the things he can do?
He has a maturity, is the way I would describe it. He's been in an NFL-type system up there with Paul Chris at the University of Pittsburgh, and they run a lot of the routes that we run, and you can tell he's been exposed to that stuff, and he has a real comfort level with it. We'll do some different things. They will have done different things with him, but you can tell he's been kind of in this NFL-style attack, understands releases, understands angles, understands how to win one-on-one, how to find himself open in zone. So he certainly has a maturity level to how he runs routes. Very quarterback friendly.
Columbo's here. Is he working this side of the building, or is he coaching stuff? A little bit of both?
He's just around. Once we started getting out on the field, he's going to be around us a little bit, working out of the personnel department. and been on the practice field the last couple of days. It's good to have him out there. He's got great energy, always has and always will.
Kind of like Deshaun Phillips, what do you see from him? You keep talking about what he brings to the table.
Yeah, we got a chance to see him at Dallas Day, and he certainly impressed us. He's a very good athlete. He's quick, good change of direction, important traits for a corner. Certainly has a long way to go in terms of learning what we're asking him to do, but certainly has some positive physical traits for playing the corner position.
Jason, you had a couple of snaps on the ground today. All these young quarterbacks play in this spread. Is it hard to take snaps anymore for these young quarterbacks? Is that the most difficult thing they're having to deal with now?
Well, for years, rookie minicamp has always been about quarterbacks and centers get out there early, take snaps, don't want to bog the practice down, all of that. And I just think it's that situation is magnified in this day and age when so many of these guys grow up in the gun and they don't have very much experience taking snaps. So it used to be get out there 10 minutes early, now it's get out there 20 minutes early. And we always tell them, do you know the center's room number over there at the Gaylord? Do you know the quarterback room number? You guys call each other up and make sure you have a football and take snaps all night long, because we don't want balls on the ground, and for a lot of these guys coming from where they come, it can happen. And we've had a couple the last couple of days. We've got to make sure we have zero.
If Orton decides not to return, are you comfortable with Brandon Whedon being your backup quarterback?
Well, we anticipate Kyle coming back. So, we really like Brandon. We like Caleb Haney. Those guys have done a nice job for us so far. Dustin Vaughn's come in here, done a nice job over the last couple of days. So we do anticipate Kyle being a part of what we're doing this year. But, we value the quarterback position a great deal. And, to think about Brandon Whedon a couple of years ago being the first-round pick, I think he was the 18th player taken in the draft. We feel like he has a lot of talent, a lot of potential, a guy we want to try to develop. And Caleb Haney has some experience as well. But we do anticipate Kyle being back with us.
Do you anticipate that based on your conversation with him?
I do.
Coach, you talked about players developing, practice to practice and day to day. What about you guys as coaches with all the language and being on the same page we talked about yesterday? Is there development there, practice to practice with you guys as well?
Oh, absolutely. It's constant communication. You're always going over how we're coaching stuff. Situations will come up on the practice field. Want to make sure we're all on the same page and how we're addressing the player, how we're addressing that situation. So we'll meet in the morning, we'll meet after practice, we'll watch the tape together, and that dialogue is really just constant and continuous. And again, getting everybody on the same page, communicating the same way to the players is really a big piece of coaching.